Hey Terry, let's get started. This public meeting of the Board of Education's Teaching, Learning, and Enrollment Committee for January 8th, 2026 is called to order. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm sorry I'm not with you all in person today. Um, Everybody at my house is sick, including me, but thank you all for being here. Today's agenda includes curriculum deep dive on math and literacy. We will also hear throughout the presentation information on technology use. So let's begin with introductions. My name is Rochelle Chase Miller. I reside in Zone 4 and I'm the committee chair.
I'm Virginia LaForte. I live in Northeast Portland, and I'm on the committee.
Hi, I'm Christy Split. I'm the third committee member, and I live in Southwest Portland. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate having you.
Now we have, actually, Jay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Jay Buno. I'm the Chief of Student Services.
Okay, next we have public comment. Roseanne, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, we do. We have Roxy, Jean Raddick, and Reagan Wozniak. We also have Crystal Hilton and Nico Buell.
Great. Please make sure when you begin your comments that you clearly state your name and spell your last name. You will have 2 minutes to speak, and we ask that once you hear the sound of the alarm go off, please wrap up your comments.
These are fun chairs. Am I supposed to start now? Yes. Okay, my name is Roxana Jean Raddick, or Roxy, and my last name is spelled Radick. Can I start?
Yes.
Hello, PPS board members. I'm here on behalf of all MLC high schoolers, middle schoolers planning to save for high school, and all the students who could attend MLC in the future. There is an effort to shut down our high school program next year. The way it is being done is extremely shady, with the people behind this effort trying to say our high school is a program and not a school, so they can get away with shutting it down without all the proper votes and processes. Metropolitan Learning Center is a remarkably unique school with a tight-knit and self-sustaining community, while also being welcoming and supportive of new students. The way we run really benefits many marginalized groups. We as a school are made almost entirely of queer and disabled students, and a lot of these students came here because due to who they are, being at another public high school is not a reasonable possibility. Many of us have been bullied and would be seen as different, me included. MLC's environment, small class sizes, and our close student-teacher relationships allow for students to grow both socially and academically. These factors are very important for bringing up and supporting students in these demographics that most likely fall through the cracks in a traditional school. We were told in the school meeting this past Tuesday that we would have to go to our neighborhood schools or to other charter schools like Benson, but these environments are incredibly different, and many current students would not be able to succeed. Personally, I can say that my autism makes change very hard for me to handle. At MLC, we don't have bells that ring between classes. We call teachers by their first names. I have classes with students in all of the high school grades, friends with both freshmen and seniors. A school like Benson has roughly 800 to 900 students. Alliance, the other one has been compared to MLC, has 200 students. There's also not enough space for all of us at Alliance. It would not be such a small school anymore. Here we have kinder buddies, chances to TA for other classes, and unique social opportunities to connect with people in other grades. This is incredibly special, and MLC will not and has not been replicated. If you are shutting it down now, it will not come back. Portland Public Schools shutting down our high school is shutting down what makes us different and taking away our place to feel safe and express ourselves. It is also unbelievably ironic to shut down our high school on the basis of low enrollment. It is a small school partially because kids here have issues that interfere with their abilities to attend a larger school, and almost every single student who is here to support MLC today has struggled with the voice in their head telling them that it do not matter. Well, we matter. MLC matters, and I hope you take that into account when you vote on the budget. Thank you.
right. Good evening. My name is Reagan Wozniak, Regan Wozniak. I'm here speaking. I was asked by students, and here I am today. Good evening. My name is Reagan Wozniak, and I am here today as a parent, a teacher, a community member, and an advocate for equitable and alternative education, speaking on behalf of Metropolitan Learning Center High School. Since its founding as an institution for experiential and alternative education for students grades K through 12, it has produced graduates that include authors, artists, activists, and at least one PPS school board vice chair. On Tuesday afternoon, the families of MLC's high school students were coldly informed that as of next year, MLC would no longer be their academic home. The district administration is closing their school. This announcement was a lightning bolt out of a clear blue sky. The families who gathered at 3:45, more than an hour before the end of a traditional workday, were the ones lucky enough to hear the news from district representatives in person. They were only a small representation of the dedicated families who have fought so hard to transfer their students to MLC. I myself am the parent of an MLC student who could not succeed in his neighborhood school. MLC High School, until earlier this week, was an option for my neurodivergent son, whose needs closely mirror those of so many of my students. It has become clear that the process outlined by the district's own policies was not followed to close this school. District officials attempted to clarify that this decision was being defined as a programming change. I would like to make clear Metropolitan Learning Center is a high school. When I print transcripts for my 9th through 12th graders, they do not say Metropolitan Learning Center. They say Metropolitan Learning Center High School. We are a high school, and these students are owed the same rights as those at Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Wells, the neighborhood schools they fled. I'm a realist. I know that numbers matter. The budget deficit is being used as the reasoning for this closure, ignoring the decades-long campaign by district administration to hide, limit, and ultimately erase MLC. The budget that will be presented to the board for a vote, which PPS would like you to believe is written with equity in every line, will be the tool used to destroy the first safe and welcoming school so many of our high school students have found. One number I would like you to consider is the immeasurable number of current and former students who attribute their time at MLC High School for being alive. Listening to student responses on Tuesday, hearing their stories in my classroom, and reading their testimonials on the student-created change.org petition, you can visit at bit.ly/SaveMLC. I am over and over struck by the harm caused to my disabled, neurodivergent, trans, non-binary, and anxious students by PPS and their neighborhood schools. I fear that losing MLC means that the world will lose these beautiful humans as well. Does PPS really want that number added to their publicity? I wonder what monetary value the district budget has assigned each life put at risk by this closure. Thank you.
My name is Nico Buehler, Nicobuehler. My name is Nico Buehler, and I am a junior at Metropolitan Learning Center among many of my other classmates. I want to talk a little bit about my experience and what makes MLC so special and the reason that we need communities and schools like this. Before I came to MLC, I was in a really difficult part of my life. School was never somewhere that I felt welcome or safe at. Throughout my academic experience, I constantly felt like an outcast. I was bullied for many years by many different people at several different schools. By the time I came to MLC, I had lost hope for a lot of things in my life, especially my education. To me, someone who was struggling immensely, coming to MLC felt like a light at the end of the tunnel. I was immediately welcomed into the school, and I finally felt like I was part of a community when I had not been before. My experience at MLC has helped me grow academically, socially, and as a person, and to lose this place would be devastating, not to me, but to others and future students who could potentially come here. Myself and many others are there because it was our last option, because we had been failed by this school system multiple times before and had already tried our neighborhood schools. I am urging you to reconsider this decision, to take a step back and look at the huge implications this will have for those who will be unfairly and unjustly displaced. Students like us matter. and there are far better solutions than completely axing our school just because of budget reasons. We are asking you to explore other options before making a decision that will cause irreparable harm to many students who are vulnerable. Thank you for your time.
My name is Crystal Hilton, Crystalhilton. I've been a parent in Portland since 2008. My son, River, is 24 years old. He's a white cisgender male, and he had a very different experience growing up in Portland than my daughter, who has brown skin, is queer and gender fluid, and just they live in different worlds. And until that is not the case, we've been trying many different schools in Portland. She's been to Hayhurst, Capitol Hill, Robert Gray, Kellogg, Portland Village School, which was amazing. She finally got to a place where she was nurtured, treated as a human. The difference in 1 year, she learned more than she learned ever. Her scores on standardized testings went up by 90%, which is, I was told, the maximum increase that is possible from that 1 year at Portland Village School. I was terrified what was going to happen when we have to go to IDB Wells, because I can't afford to send her to a Waldorf high school. I was so grateful when we found this place just this term. She just got there. And so now to think that she might have to go back to IDB Wells, well, she's already been treated with racism this year by the librarian, the PE teacher, the art teacher, not racism by the art teacher. There was a different thing. She teaches special ed kids differently than other kids. My daughter's not even in special ed anymore. She has been in special ed for social and emotional support. So when she's in a nurturing environment, she doesn't need that. She wasn't in any IEP or any kind of thing. She was in general ed and succeeded, excelled. And if that is taken from her again, I can't even imagine. I don't know what to say. Thank you.
And we have one more speaker signed up tonight. Oh, we have one more speaker signed up. Steve Buell.
Thanks, Steve.
I timed this down to 2 minutes, so tell me when to start.
Ready?
As soon as you say your name.
Here are some ideas to help elementary school children learn better in our schools. In math, we need to have older children work problems regularly, maybe 150 days out of 170 or so. Conceptual understanding, which takes up much of the time now, is critically important, of course, but it needs to be blended with actually doing problem solving. Without problem solving at a high level, it is extremely hard for children to obtain a math sense. P.S. Every general education child should know their times tables by the end of 3rd grade. In teaching writing, we need to have children write daily, including creating compositions and essays. By 3rd grade, they should know how to paragraph. Their work should be corrected. Along with this, we should teach grammar as a system, since it is a system. PPS has begun to improve their reading teaching, as they seem to be making sure we are now teaching phonics. 2 things that could help even more would be to create a complete reading curriculum, which included such things as making sure there is reading time, teaching children how to choose good books, and assessing and helping children with pronunciation, meaning, and syntax. It would also speed up children's learning by giving all teachers a copy of the specific phonics they should teach. Teaching technology as a fourth basic skill with standards developed so that students are taught the technology itself, not just how to respond to it, would be a good idea. Right now, there is a lot of argument over technology and how it is used and how schools should respond to it, but little discussion of what specific technology should be taught at what grade level. Thank you for listening. And I already had PS, closing Metropolitan Learning Center High School is a big mistake.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts regarding the upcoming changes and MLC. I'm a graduate from an alternative school myself, one that is very similar to MLC, and I understand the importance of alternative school options. I speak from the heart when I say that we hear your concerns and want to ensure that you have a direct line to leadership and the Board of Education. The superintendent, senior chief of academics, and chief of schools will be hosting a listening session for all MLC families and students on Wednesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. This will be an opportunity to discuss the reasoning behind these decisions and, more importantly, the specific supports the district is putting in place for our students moving forward. I've confirmed with staff that every student currently enrolled in the high school program will receive individualized transition support. This includes one-on-one counseling, assistance in exploring and enrolling in other high school options within the district, and ongoing family engagement throughout the transition process. This is a moment when our district is faced with significant financial challenges. This year, we're cutting $50 million from our budget. This will contribute to over $100 million in cuts over 3 years. I encourage you all to reach out to your legislators and share your experiences and ask them to fully fund public education in Oregon so that we can have educational options that meet the needs of all of our students. Thank you all so much for being here today. Before we move on, I want to correct the date and confirm that today is Thursday, February 12th. Okay, so now on to our topic of today's meeting, a math and literacy curriculum deep dive. Chief Buno, would you like to introduce our presenters?
Before we get started, Director Chase Miller, I just want to clarify, I've just heard that the date of the MLC meeting will be February 18th at 6 p.m.
Thank you so much, Roseanne.
At MLC.
Really, thank you so much for being here. I know you don't want to stay and listen to the presentation, which is fine, but thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you turning out. And
Yeah.
Okay, well, tonight as we begin our conversation and focus on our math and language arts curriculum, I'd like to invite up Dr. Emily Glasgow and Dr. Philippe Histich to lead us through this conversation.
Maybe you start with introductions while I work on getting our slides up.
Sure, Vice Chair, thank you for the, or Committee Chair, I should say. Thank you for the opportunity. Board Directors, good evening. Chief Buno, thank you. My name is Philippe Histich. I'm the Senior Director for Secondary Academics. I'm joined by Emily Glasgow, Senior Director for Pre-K-5 Academics. And I just want to take a moment and appreciate the amazing team that I get to work with. So Assistant Director Anjane Bryant is in the audience and supports language arts and social studies. Assistant Director Tutam Dwan, who supports math and science, is also in the audience. Morgan Halliburton supports high school language arts and social studies. And Noel Gorbet supports math and science at the high school level as well. Both of them contributed to this evening's presentation but are unable to attend, unfortunately. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us this afternoon/evening. And I'm Emily Glasgow. I want to introduce the team behind me that helps lead at the elementary level. So we have Director Melissa Schuckner, who oversees K-5 ELA and Social Studies, and Patrice Woods, who's the Director of K-5 Math and Science, and Elizabeth Martin, who is the Assistant Director of K-12 Academic Interventions. They're all here on hand. They helped us prepare the presentation, and should we have any questions way in the weeds, our content experts are in the room. So we'll dive in. We have a multimedia presentation for you with some videos and things to keep it interesting, hopefully. Here's our agenda. We have a lot of content to cover. We're charged with talking about K-12 mathematics and language arts. So we kind of have it chunked. We want to go all the way through K-12 mathematics and then see what questions you have, and then go all the way through K-12 language arts and see what questions you have, if that's okay. Our guiding question this evening is, what does math and language arts core instruction look, sound, and feel like in K-12 PPS classrooms? And then upon your request, we're sort of integrating into the conversation, where and how does technology show up to support that learning? So I'm going to start with K-5 mathematics, and then I'll pass to Philippe for secondary. Our core curriculum in K-5 mathematics in all classrooms is called iReady, and it's a suite of, this is just an image to sort of show you everything it includes. There is a digital teacher toolbox that is teacher-facing, that is where teachers find everything they need, all their lesson plans, all their data, all videos, tools, resources, information on how to do differentiation for different students. There is a student work text or workbook that you see here in this image. It is used for practice. It is not used all the time. This is not kids in workbooks all day long, but it is the place where students practice and apply their learning. There is you can see on the slide, there are manipulatives. So all those little tiles we call manipulatives. There are lots of different ones besides those pictured here, and every lesson calls for things that students can manipulate with their hands to practice and learn more mathematics. There is an online practice tool that I'll talk a little bit more about called MyPath, which is student-facing. And there is also a diagnostic assessment, which we'll talk a little bit more about. You can see on this slide how many minutes per day students at each grade level spend on mathematics. I'm not going to spend a lot more time talking about that. You can see what it looks like, but it's expected that those many minutes happen every day in every classroom. And then, because they say it better than we do, I'm going to show you a very quick, like 2-minute video that kind of goes over what the structure of a lesson looks and feels like across a week, and some of the core instructional routines that are part of iReady, in particular the Try, Discuss, Connect routine. So we'll watch this quick video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what you heard. Hopefully it'll work. Let's give it a try.
When it comes to mathematics, the key to long-term learning lies in developing deep conceptual understanding, along with application and procedural fluency. iReady Classroom Mathematics takes a unique yet proven approach to get these results. Our lessons span multiple days to give students the time they need to dig into the concepts, develop their understanding, build procedural fluency, and apply their learning to new ideas. Each lesson is comprised of multiple sessions. Each session, or day, takes about 45 to 60 minutes to complete. There are 3 different session types: Explore, Develop, and Refine. The Explore sessions are the first sessions in every lesson. They set the stage for the new concepts the students are going to learn. The session uses an engaging task that helps students connect previously learned concepts to the new ideas of the lesson. In Develop sessions, the class uses the discourse-based Try, Discuss, Connect routine. Through the routine, students develop, discuss, and compare strategies to solve a problem. By discussing one rich problem in depth, students make connections between strategies and better retain what they learn. They then apply this learning to new problems. The Refine sessions are the last sessions in a lesson. They provide built-in time for students to practice and deepen their understanding. At the beginning of the refined session, teachers check student work on the START activity and observe their reasoning on questions in the lesson. As teachers monitor students' understanding, they can choose from the reteaching resources, on-level practice, or extension activities to further address diverse student learning needs. The flexibility of the refined sessions provides dedicated class time for further differentiation. The multiple day lessons in iReady Classroom Mathematics progressively build student understanding and provide the time students need to process new ideas. This thoughtful approach deepens conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, and the ability to apply the learning to new situations. The instructional design of iReady Classroom Mathematics helps students connect to mathematics in new ways and sets them up for long-term success.
Let me get back to the slides. So here's another way of sort of capturing what you heard and saw in the video. What should be happening in an iReady mathematics lesson is that every day, or definitely across the week, there's whole group learning opportunities, there's small group learning opportunities, and there's some independent practice or application time. People often ask, like, what makes this different than the old math, right? The old math. So I think some of that you heard in the video. This is a very discourse-heavy curriculum, meaning kids spend a lot of time talking with one another about strategies. They play out their strategies on whiteboards and share them with partners. They're encouraged to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. Often a teacher might even call up a student who made a mistake in their thinking, and the whole class will kind of talk that through and think about how to help that student reroute, because again, there's a belief that we learn through mistakes. And then I think you heard also there's opportunities as the week progresses for teachers to differentiate and use data to determine if they need to work with certain students to reteach and do small groups while other students are moving forward or doing more problems. It's a less is more approach. We're not doing pages and pages of problems. We're going deep into less problems to really make sure there's conceptual understanding. The other piece I want to just emphasize before we talk about assessment is the individualized online MyPath practice. So there was a specific question your committee had about technology usage. There is this program called MyPath. Students take a diagnostic assessment 3 times a year, and the diagnostic assessment places them within this online practice tool according to their skills. It's recommended that students do 30 to 45 minutes a week on this, so it's not very much. It's definitely not even every day. And it's a supplement to the teacher instruction, to the small group instruction, just to give kids those added kind of at-bats at their level to build skills up toward, you know, the grade level standards or beyond if that's where they are. The research is clear that kids who do that 30 to 45 minutes a week are much more likely to meet their growth and stretch targets that are set within the diagnostic. And the last thing is assessment on this topic. So in K-5 mathematics, just like you'll hear across the board in K-12 everything, we have a balanced assessment system. So we have interim assessments that we do fall, winter, spring. That's the diagnostic. There's ongoing assessment that's just kind of baked into the lessons. It might look like a quick exit ticket on the way out the door as kids are wrapping up the lesson. It might be a lesson quiz or a comprehension check. These are quick, and they're just like little dipsticks to give teachers information about where kids are and what they need to reteach and support. And then there's end of unit assessments, again, for teachers to sort of check at the end of a unit, where are we, what did kids master, how did I do as the teacher, what do I need to maybe circle back and do with some students. So I'm going to pass for 612 math. Do you want me to just flip here, or do you want to put it in the middle? Okay.
Great, thanks, Emily.
Yep.
So in secondary mathematics, we use our adopted curriculum, which is mid-school math for middle school and illustrative mathematics, to bring the focus, coherence, and rigor of our math standards to life. And we anchor what strong instruction looks like by using core actions as a shared framework. And these actions really speak to what we teach, how we teach it, and how students engage in learning. At the middle school level, we use mid-school math as our core curriculum. Students receive 45 minutes of math instruction per day, providing consistent, dedicated time for grade level learning. Introduction is intentionally focused on one instruction is intentionally focused on one priority standard at a time, allowing students to develop deeper understanding rather than moving quickly from one topic to another. The mid-school math curriculum includes several integrated components. So much like our K-5 curriculum, our middle school curriculum is predictable. The mid-school math curriculum includes simulations, structured practice, printables, and quick checks for understanding. These pieces are designed to work together as a coherent lesson sequence, supporting consistent instructional practice across classrooms and ensure students are engaged in math in a variety of different ways.
I know we're supposed to wait for our questions, but I don't understand that slide. So can we
Sure.
go back? What is a math simulator?
I'm going to talk about it in the very next slide.
Great.
Yes, and I appreciate the question. So,
in case it's not going to get covered, I also don't know what a clicker quiz is. So, thank you.
great. So every lesson begins with a story-based thinking task. So students encounter a meaningful problem first, discuss their thinking, and work towards solutions before formal instruction. So this is also very different, certainly from how I experienced math in middle school, where my experience, and I think the experience of many other students, was watching a teacher demonstrate how to solve a problem, then doing some problem solving together, and then having homework to solve problems on my own, which really focuses on procedural fluency, but doesn't necessarily allow for the possibility of developing deep conceptual understanding. So in our middle school curriculum, and similar to our high school curriculum, we begin with the problem and we create space for students to engage in some thinking about problem solving. So this approach positions students as thinkers and sense makers from the start, and would like to illustrate this by showing a brief video, if that's okay. And hopefully this will...
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Johnson, Director of Professional Learning with Mid-School Math. Each standard is introduced to students in an investigation. The first part of the week is that conceptual immersion, building that opportunity for productive failure, struggling, and collaborating.
For the math simulator, they just get to start out with a great story. They give kids an opportunity to really think about what would they need in order to solve this problem.
I just know it's going to be one side of the equation equals another side of the equation. It could equal like the same amount he makes.
You need to see like how much fur he has first and how much he sells each of the first 4.
We need to know how many pickles are in the jar. We need to find out what they're using to make them and what that costs.
Once we've gone through that discussion, we grab the artifact, which then gives them numbers, any kind of information that they would need, and they start to just work with that information.
So I multiplied, right? And I got 120 and 720. So 720 is definitely much greater.
Yeah, but we gotta add these together. So if we multiply it, then add those together. But this is the... I think that's right.
It's so much fun to watch my students process through that, come up with things you would never think of, have great discussions around the room. And so it's just a wonderful way to start the week with my students.
Nice. And we can come back to any other questions you might have. So assessments in middle school are closely aligned with our with the standards and what's been taught. Standard checks occur at the end of each standard and provide summative evidence for standards-based grading, while post-milestone assessments help monitor progress on major grade level expectations and often include more than one standard. At the high school level, they experience a different curriculum, but there's definitely continuity in instructional experiences. We continue to emphasize reasoning, problem solving, as well as conceptual understanding in math instruction. Students at the high school level must earn at least 3 math credits at the Algebra 1 and above level in order to meet graduation requirements. And then we also encourage students to take the 4th year of math as well. High school math is typically taught on a block schedule, providing between 180 and 270 minutes of instruction per week, depending on the week. Illustrative mathematics, or IM, lessons follow a consistent structure that supports student discourse. So again, the idea of like predictable structure is really important. These lessons support student discourse, reasoning, and reflection. Students engage with challenging problems first, explain their thinking, and refine understanding through discussion and practice. So you would typically see at the beginning of a lesson the introduction of a problem and the time and opportunity for students to grapple with those problems before they transition to small group or instruction and small group work. At the secondary level, our literacy, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just find, this is the video, but I want to introduce the Building Thinking Classrooms, which is an instructional approach separate from the curriculum itself. And we're seeing our middle school and high school teachers quite excited about some of the professional development that we've offered around Building Thinking Classrooms. So this is a research-based instructional approach that focuses on getting every student actively thinking during the learning time. Students work collaboratively on rich, accessible problems, often using vertical whiteboard, erasable whiteboards. And we're going to show you a brief video from Emma Giorgetta's Algebra 3-4 class at McDaniel High School.
Today, we're going to start with bringing back some stuff from yesterday, and then I'm going to send you into some new territory together. Snag whoever you want. I think you did the blue one. You know what I'm going to have you guys do? I'm going to have you please. Oh, yeah. We're waking up. Will you please find your board and bring your notes? You might want them. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Beautiful. You're on page 4. You were answering all those problems on a whiteboard with your partner. You're talking through it. How did you get that? Which graph did you use? What do you think? And then there's some bonus problems on the board.
So have
nice. Okay, we have them.
So we're figuring out which graph it is.
Well, I'm going to invite, if you're willing, Anthony to be the writer, and you're going to explain what you did, since he wasn't here this. Yeah, very much it. And then make sure you're asking questions. So you're like, where does that even mean? Yeah? What are you guys thinking about? Cool, how come?
This is where I got confused, because when it's Y, it likes the Y.
Awesome. It's really not too bad, right? Steps, thin slices, bottom 2 are extensions. Solve for the variable. Nice.
So 10 equals B.
Cool, then check it, right? How do you know if you're right?
Put it back in.
Put it back in. It works. And then Mary, take that next one, talk it through. You guys have lots of good pathways. Cool. How do you guys know you're right? Oh, what's a way to figure out if you're right? Yeah.
Oh, it is mine. Yeah.
Where's your equal sign? We're right there. Tell me about this symbol. I'm worried that the symbol went over too many things. You see how the board it ends right there? And that actually doesn't matter.
Wait, so, alright, let's go back on this one.
Yeah. And then we're going to keep stair-stepping upwards. You guys have such great thoughts on your boards. This is very exciting. All right, you guys, I'm going to move you to...
So you may have noticed that the teacher is asking a lot of questions. How would you check? How did you get that? What do you think? Students are working with each other. They're making their thinking visible and public. Oftentimes, in lessons like this, students will actually rotate from one station to another and will respond to each other's work. And rather than learning being kind of private and kind of transactional between the student and the teacher, it is collaborative and very, very public. Lastly, regarding assessments, high school assessments also include formative checks such as readiness checks and cool downs, as well as end of the unit assessments that synthesize the learning from the entire unit. These provide common evidence of learning and support across schools. So I think we can answer any questions you might have about math, and also maybe our math Tutam and Patrice can help if needed as well. Come up.
They're pretty comfortable. I don't know. You're welcome to.
And any questions before we transition to ELA?
Yeah, I have questions, but do those of you in the room want to begin?
Let's defer to you being virtual because it's harder to like prioritize virtual people, you know?
Thank you. Okay, so I was curious, what feedback are we getting on these curriculums from teachers?
That's a great question. At the elementary level, I would say, so this is I should have started by saying this is our 5th year in iReady mathematics implementation. So it's no longer a new approach or a new curriculum in the district. Patrice, please come down if you have anything to add. I would say largely, though, teachers like it. We, like everything else, have a range of implementation across the system, but I almost never go into a classroom where I don't see a teacher very much trying to teach iReady and trying to use the iReady materials. There's no resistance to the concept of iReady. I think there's just, continued learning on behalf of teachers. But Patrice, please flesh that out.
Only thing I'll add to that is for kindergarten and first grade educators. So initially when we adopted iReady, again, you saw that it's, discourse based. And so there was a lot of feedback that this is not developmentally appropriate for kindergarten students and first grade students. And we heard that a lot. Curriculum associates heard that a lot. They are across the United States, and as a result of that feedback, they actually revamped their kindergarten and first grade programming. And so in 2024, they rolled that out. And our kindergarten, we did a little pilot with some kindergarten and first grade teachers, and they absolutely loved it, at least the group, compared to what they had in the past. And so, again, to Emily's point, I haven't heard a lot of complaints about it. We continue to work with educators to strengthen implementation, especially around the discourse piece, because that's not always going as smoothly as we would hope, but they are working very hard, and our teachers are doing a good job. And the data's showing that as well. We're seeing some definite improvements across the year. So this is year 4 for us doing the iReady diagnostic. And just looking at, we don't have any data slides in there, and I'm sure we can get them to you if you like. But just thinking about the progression from our growth and performance from the first administration of the iReady diagnostic to now is just huge. We're spread across a lot more schools are high performance versus lower performance and high growth. So they're using it, they like it, they especially like the teacher friendliness of the data reports from doing the, I'm sorry about that, from doing the diagnostics. So I mean, I couldn't say 100% of them love it because that's just never going to be the case, but I haven't heard too many complaints about it. So.
Thank you. And I would love to see the data at some point. That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Can we hear about the high school side?
The secondary side, yeah.
The secondary side?
I can speak to middle grades, mid-school math. It is definitely a different approach. As an educator, especially in math, one of the hardest questions to answer when a student asks is, when are we ever going to use this? And this is why this is a different approach. It opens with that story-based thinking task, where they are demonstrating a situation where you need to apply the math that you're about to learn to actually answer the question, but we're not going to tell you what you need to know. You tell us what you need to know to answer this question. And so it's a completely different approach in that it opens with the application part first. Here's a situation where you need to apply some math skills, and then you tell me how you're going to apply it based on some additional artifacts that I'm going to give you later. And so that it encourages that productive struggle for students.
And how do you think teachers feel about it?
It is an adaptive shift for our teachers because it is different than how we learned math growing up. And we are continuing to support that adaptive shift for our teachers. Some teachers love it. They share that they love teaching it because it's fun, it is different. But if you are a teacher who has not adapted to that shift, it can be more challenging.
So I guess this isn't about the curriculum itself, but kind of implementation. I love the presentation and the way that it's laid out and the sequencing and everything. It looks really great, and it makes sense to me and looks engaging. But I'm curious about the reality of implementation given class size. And this is like a little bit of a personal anecdote, but I was in a class size committee meeting at my kids' school for my kids' second grade class. And one of the teachers shared that because of her class size numbers, she just doesn't have the time in the day to work with kids individually. And so they end up doing curriculum. Kids who are not at grade level end up doing a lot of time online while they're giving direct instruction to other students. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how educators are balancing the challenge of trying to implement curriculum to fidelity with the realities of our class sizes.
So I can speak to that a little. So similar to what Tutom was sharing in terms of it being sort of a shift for educators, one of the big shifts within the use of the iReady instructional materials is this idea of sort of a consistent daily move to small group work. So the way that the lessons were set up, and you saw the video, there's opportunity for small group work on a daily basis. And so to your point with your anecdote, it takes like the getting in there and doing it. It's not going to be comfortable at first, especially if you're not used to it. But it's one of those things where we got to continue to practice it until we can get better at it. And I'm saying that to say, so for example, if you've got kiddos that need a little bit of extra support, when you implement that small group work and that there's rotation, so the kids are doing about 15 or 20-minute rotations, there are lessons actually, and Emily mentioned Teacher Toolbox, within Teacher Toolbox that are exactly aligned to whatever concept we're learning. So whether it's in this unit or an upcoming standard or upcoming lesson, there are opportunities for teachers to then use those tools for instruction, which again are designed for small groups, and provide kiddos with those. And then when kids do the rotations, they get opportunities to practice with one another on that same concept, or a concept that gives them a bridge to access that grade level content. So again, it's just one of those things. By no means am I saying it's easy. I'm certainly not trying to come across that way. But it is something that's different for some folks. And it's something that in theory is done daily so that kids kind of understand the process and the protocol in terms of, okay, we have teacher time, we might have a whole group lesson, and then we shift to student-led centers, individual centers. Maybe they do MyPath a couple days a week or not. So so practice, and whatever support is needed, we are willing to come and provide. any way we can. So, and I know that instructional coaches also have been through some of these as well. So whatever they are able to provide as well. And it, like I said, sometimes it takes that like one-on-one work or that willingness, and I'm not saying the teacher's not willing, but that willingness to step outside of my comfort zone and teach it a little differently than I'm used to, or than I've learned for that matter.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing you say in relation to, because my concern is about like kids getting put on my path in lieu of having time
Yep.
with the teacher directly. So what I think I'm hearing you say is that with focus on that small group time, that's the opportunity for teachers to be working with students at all levels, and that's kind of an adjustment.
Yeah, so that's not putting kids on computers because differentiation is challenging is not the recommended answer, right? And that's on us to continue professional learning with educators around how to really plan for the kids in the room, big class, big range, small range, and really use everything the curriculum offers, including this approach to small group instruction. And it's a learning process, but it's possible in large classrooms to ensure that everybody's getting daily grade level math instruction. That's our expectation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift to 6-8, and I'm going to be quick because I don't want to take up too much time. This is another personal anecdote, as both of my kids have been sick multiple days this week. And I've got my kid doing his math that he's missing right now. I love the sequencing of the week and the way that the standards unfold across the week. But what happens if kids miss a day or multiple days? How do those gaps get filled given the way that the standard is scaffolded?
Yeah, so there's a very specific sequence for mid-school math. Day 1 is that thinking task. Day 2, they deepen their understanding, applying the concepts for that standard as it relates to the story. Day 3 is where teacher instruction gets folded in, and they get to practice it through the practice printable, which looks like a worksheet. And then day 4 is a clicker quiz. If students are absent, teachers can still assign those different components to students so that they can stay caught up and catch up with additional help. So all of those components are there, and they can still be assigned.
I assume that's what my kid is working on in the other room right now. Is a week enough time for students to master a standard? And what happens when it's not?
Yes, that's a really great question. One of the beautiful parts about mid-school math is that it's a predictable structure. So it's easy for teachers to get used to that structure, students to get used to those structures. But in reality, some standards are simpler and some standards are more complex. And what we've done in 6-8 is we've hosted teacher work groups where teachers have come in for days, and they have identified, okay, these are the simpler standards, these are the standards where we can shave off a couple days. Maybe we don't need the whole 5 days. Maybe we can cover it in 3 days. These standards are more complex and they require more time because we know that there might be some lagging skills involved. And so we will dedicate more time in the scope and sequence for that. And we have adjusted that based on direct teacher feedback. And teachers have actually been the ones who have identified those and adjusted scope and sequence accordingly.
Okay. This feels related. How does mid-school math scaffold for SPED students?
For special education, what a great question. And that really is folded into how we can support teachers, and I would call it thin slicing. It's integrating some of those building thinking classrooms strategies directly into the curriculum. They are curriculum agnostic, those practices. One example would be the practice printable, day 3. We hosted PD on this with instructional coaches. And so we would take a complex question and we thin slice it and we scaffold it. And so we look at what skill or concept is needed as a prerequisite skill. We chunk it for students and then build it up so that they can see how they can actually answer that question, but in small chunks, building up from prior grade levels.
Okay, thank you. I think this is my last question. I'm curious about the assessments. I've heard about synergy kiosk assessments. And is that the same thing as the assessments that are a part of the units that y'all were talking about? And then also, are the assessments in the units what are considered to be embedded assessments?
That's right. So the end of the unit assessments, post milestones as they're known at the middle school level, or end of the unit assessments at the high school level, are curriculum aligned assessments. They're assessing what was taught in that curriculum. They're all standards based. In other words, each item on the assessment is connected to a particular standard that was taught and that is being assessed. And the big shift that we're making this year is that we're transitioning these assessments from paper and pencil to an online platform called Synergy Assessment Module. So what that means is that the assessments themselves are not changing a whole lot, but where students complete the assessments is. And so they'll be completing assessments on Chromebooks. They would simply log in through Student View. The assessment would be there. The real benefit of doing that is that it makes student learning and progress more transparent for all of us who are responsible for our student learning. In other words, we certainly see our teachers as the highest levers of student learning, and obviously they are responsible for student learning, but we also think of our instructional coaches and our principals and our curriculum leads and central office leaders as also being responsible. And so having access to information about student progress can allow us to be much more responsive to student needs. For example, if we can see centrally how our students did on their first algebra assessment in 9th grade, not just in a teacher's classroom, but across our district, we can extrapolate some information about strengths and weaknesses that we may need to address as far as the curriculum sequence is concerned in 8th grade or later on in 9th grade in algebra. And right now, because all of our end of the unit assessments are paper pencil, we just don't have the ability to have access to that information. We wait until the end of a semester to see what the course passage rates were, but we don't have that nuanced, standard-specific information that we really need to be responsive to student learning. So we are starting with math and language arts this year, and we are engaging in conversations with teachers, as Tutam mentioned, around designing some of the assessments. We're really monitoring what is their user experience so we can make adjustments as well. And then we'll continue that conversation to see whether and when we bring other content areas on board as well. We believe that standardized assessments are critical. They provide us some really important information, but we also think that curriculum embedded assessments or curriculum aligned assessments are important as well, so we can have that more timely, informative data to respond to student learning. I just want to emphasize something that Tutam just mentioned briefly, but Tutam, Noel, I think Patrice as well, are engaged in constant conversations with teachers to adjust curriculum, to review assessments, talk about individual items on the assessment. In other words, just because we have an adopted curriculum, that doesn't mean that that's a kind of a static body of texts and activities. We're constantly engaging in conversations to see where do adjustments need to be made, exactly because of some of the questions that you're raising around how is this working for students? Where do we need more time? Where do we need less time? How is the sequence, etc.? So that work is ongoing.
I'm going to just time check us for a minute, if that's okay. We could talk about math this whole time, and we still also want to talk about language arts. We have about 30 minutes left, so I'll leave it up to you guys if you want us to move forward, or if you have a few more burning questions about math.
I have one burning question.
Okay.
So I answered the several that I had. Because this is technology based. Okay, so I want to back up just 1 second. So educators are not required to use the curriculum, correct? Or they are required?
They're expected to use the curriculum.
Okay, expected or required. Okay, so that answers part of it. So my question, I guess it's a moot point, was how if we can tell if students who are using the curriculum are improving their math skills at a faster rate than those who are not, but they're required to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a moot point. And that was my question.
Maybe it might be helpful for you, because I just remember hearing this from you guys some other time, to talk a little bit about how you gauge teacher fidelity as far as like how you know that they're using it, they're supposed to be using it. I know that's not 100%. Could you just share a little bit about that? Because I know I heard it at some point along the way, and maybe that'll help you to understand the dynamic a little better.
Sure, and this would be true across language arts and mathematics. So we do have a district-wide K-12 instructional look-for tool that kind of, it's a rubric that lays out what we expect to see in classrooms, including high-quality implementation of high-quality instructional materials that we've adopted. We use that on our principal instructional walks. So when principals go together on instructional walks, they calibrate together after seeing classrooms on the scores for those classrooms. They enter it into a central database, and we can see that. We can pull that data, and that's part of how we monitor our district continuous improvement plan, part of which is grounded in the implementation of our high-quality materials.
And I feel like I've seen percentages,
Yes,
right?
correct.
In some other
Yes.
place. Okay.
You have. Yeah.
It's pretty high. Lower the higher, the older the kids, the lower the number.
Correct. You're remembering correctly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Transition to language arts. All right. Thank you, Patrice, and to Tom.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to start with K-5 again. There are a lot of parts to the K-5 curriculum. I think one of the things I want to say just at the beginning is I'm going to start actually K-12 and talk about some things that are true K-12. You've heard us talk about the science of reading before. You've heard us talk about how complex that is. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here. And in particular, I think we want to start by talking about, again, kind of old versus new. Like what has shifted? What's the big deal about the science of reading? We talk about it as this transformation. So previously in Portland Public Schools, and quite frankly most of the country, we used a balanced literacy approach, which was, now we know, not exactly grounded in the best and most current research around reading. In PPS in K-5, that looked like Readers and Writers Workshop historically. Now we use what's called structured literacy, which is grounded in research, grounded in the science of reading. Part of what's important in the K-5 space in that transformation is we now do explicit instruction and foundational skills. And we also do integrated reading and writing work. Kids are writing, speaking, listening about complex text, which was not always the case when we were using our balanced literacy approach. Prior to our current adoptions, we had inconsistent implementation of instructional practices. There was still a lot of pick and choose your own adventure happening in different schools and different classrooms. Now we have required high quality instructional materials that we expect to see in every classroom. There was a heavy reliance previously, I would say at all levels, K-12, on what we called level text, which means kids kind of reading at their level text instead of at grade level text. And part of this transformation has really been the expectation that kids are accessing grade level complex text every day, even if they need scaffolds and supports to get there. And then there was uneven access to resources. Kids, and this is still true to some extent as we work on our implementation across the system, but kids were reading different books and getting different access and having different writing prompts, and we have a lot more coherence and consistency across our classrooms now. We've shown you this before as well. This is Scarborough's rope, which is one of the images often used to explain kind of what's most important about the science of reading. Again, just it shows at the bottom of the rope the foundational skills that we teach in our primary grades that need to be taught explicitly. And then in the upper half, we see language comprehension, background knowledge, vocabulary. In our K3, K2 classrooms, all those parts need to be taught explicitly. As kids start to get older, around 3rd, 4th grade, the rope comes together, and we start to more explicitly just teach the upper half of the rope, because kids should have the skills at the lower half of the rope. What you can see on this slide is that we have curricular resources, K-12, aligned to all the parts of the rope. That's what's illustrated in that sort of rainbow text on the left, and we'll talk about all those different curricula in this presentation. So at the K-5 level, again, we have a lot of components. We have Hegarty, Foundations, Geodes, and Wit and Wisdom in our English classrooms. And then in our Spanish DLI classrooms, dual language classrooms, we have 2 other curricula, Juntos al Éxito and Benchmark Adelante Advance. That allows us to make sure that in both Spanish language and English language in those classroom, kids are still all getting all the parts of the rope. All these curricula have a lot of components. Obviously, they have a lot of books. Lots and lots of books in our classroom. In Wit and Wisdom and in Benchmark, we're looking at like the actual kind of books you would like buy online or buy at Barnes & Noble if you still go to stores, right? Like real authentic texts. Here's what this looks like on a schedule. Again, this is in an English classroom. You can see that in our K2 classrooms, we're talking about 2 hours a day dedicated to literacy. 3rd grade is still 2 hours a day, and it goes down to 90 minutes in 4th and 5th because they no longer need to be doing that explicit foundational skills instruction. And then you can kind of see on the slide how this plays out in terms of the different curricular pieces. It is a lot. We say often this phrase, reading is rocket science. It is rocket science in that we know how to do it. It's also rocket science in that it's really complicated, particularly for our elementary and primary teachers, to put all these pieces together for students. And doable. All the resources are there. To answer the question about technology, this is what it looks like at the elementary level. Our kindergarten through 2nd grade classrooms have 2-to-1 access with Chromebooks right now, meaning 2 students to every 1 Chromebook. And in 3rd through 5th and beyond up through 6th, 12th, we have 1-to-1 access. There's not a lot of technology expected in our K-5 literacy classrooms. Kids should not be spending a lot of time on computers. We have a tool that's associated with our Foundations curriculum called FunHub Practice. It's a tool that may be used about 25 minutes per week for students to go on and do some independent practice with the foundational skills, phonics skills that they've been learning in Foundations. Teachers can monitor it and see how kids are doing and can use that to help with some data and reteaching. We have a tool called Learning Ally that, again, can be used as a supplement to help kids who need audio access to the complex text that they may not be able to access themselves yet. And then there is also a tool that aligns with the Spanish DLI benchmark curriculum that can be used kind of on and off to supplement lessons. It might be used during the What I Need block as well to give kids some more independent practice. The only other real reason why kids would be on computers is sometimes in the upper elementary space when they're writing in their Wit and Wisdom classrooms, they may do some of their writing on computers as well. And then really just like in math, we have a balanced assessment system in literacy and language arts. So there's ongoing classroom checks that are happening every day. There's a lot of observation that happens in language arts. There might be looking at small pieces of writing, even in Foundations when kids are doing dictation and they hold up their whiteboard for the kids, the teacher to see what they wrote. There's that immediate feedback piece that happens. We have curriculum-based assessments, end of unit tasks that ask kids to write about text, to read new passages they haven't read before and practice their comprehension skills and show the teacher what they know. And then we have sort of our benchmark assessments that you're aware of. We have our MAP and we have our MAP fluency for K2. So the whole suite gives us quite a bit of information about where kids are as readers and writers. And again, like we've done in the other sections, we wanted to sort of illustrate for you what this can look like. I had the wonderful opportunity to be at Jason Lee last week on a Bright Spot visit where we were on the hunt for some really excellent implementation to see what we could capture. And we happened into a 4th grade classroom where the teacher was teaching this novel called Hatchet. It's a module on survival skills. Kids get really engaged in it. It's really interesting stuff.
I was reading this book out loud to my daughter because it's an OBOB book. She read it for school last year, but she's in 5th grade. I've been reading it out loud. This book is intense.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't read it, I've read like 3 chapters out loud and was like, Okay.
Yeah. Engaging, right? Like, so, like real book, engaging stuff.
I'm like never ever want to go to like the Canadian forest ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
I
moving on.
remember reading it in elementary school and like it rocked my world.
Yeah. So super interesting text. The kids are engaged in it. They spend a long time in one text, doing a lot with one text. You can see this is lesson 26 of 34. I'm not going to read to you the parts of the lesson. Wit and wisdom lessons are long. There's a lot of components to them. We saw lots of things in this classroom that were exciting to us, but what we wanted to illustrate to you, and this isn't, like the best video from a technology standpoint, but you should be able to hear what we want you to hear, or hope you hear, which is the kids really engaging in using text evidence to answer questions, which is what standards call on kids to do. And remember, these are fourth graders. And so this teacher was doing a beautiful job, as Wit and Wisdom asked her to, facilitating text-based discussion, getting excited about the content like you guys just did with the kids, and then pushing them back into the text to find answers, ground their answers, reread sections if they weren't getting the full complexity. And this is really how comprehension grows. So we're just going to do just a minute or two of this again. The visual is not amazing, but you'll get the audio.
I think how Brian changed is he told us his own self was weak. He said he knew a wolf. He also said on page 114, Brian looked back for a moment, felt afraid because he was right. He knew him. Brian definitely feels more comfortable around him. Last time he was scared of them. That is how I think Brian changed.
What does it take, or what did it take for Brian to get raspberries? Versus what does it take for new Brian to catch fish? Alder, can you weigh in on that? Sure.
So for the raspberries, you used to have to like walk all the way to the forest, and for fish, you just has to walk over to the nearby lake.
You make the fishing sound easy. Was the fishing always easy?
No.
Who can pass the microphone and answer, what did it take for him to actually catch a fish? This new Brian. Tell me, Henry.
So he had to just make the bowl, us for you.
Okay, tell me, how long did it take him to make a spear? Let's find it in the book. Someone find it in the book. What part is missing?
The
bow, the arrow. I want you all to read the end of page 117 to yourself. You're going to read the last paragraph in 117, and you're going to continue to read the first and second paragraph on 118. Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
So what was cool, and hopefully you could catch some of that in there about this lesson, right, is the teacher's really facilitating, the kids are digging into the text and answering questions. They wrote about the text, they discussed the text, and then they got up, while some kids were finishing writing, the kids that were done got up and did a mix and mingle in the back of the room where they were sharing with each other while the teacher continued to support the kids who were getting their thoughts on writing, on paper. And all of this is fourth graders talking about how character development happens through evidence, through text and grounding. And it's cool. It's high level stuff, and what we hope kids are doing in fourth grade and beyond, and what our Wit and Wisdom curriculum really calls for and pushes for. Let's see if I can make this move. Here we go. So that's K5. I'm going to pass to 612, and then we can do questions at the end.
So at the secondary level, our focus is really on the upper end of the rope, the components that support strong comprehension and meaningful and meaning making. This includes language comprehension, background knowledge, language structures, literacy knowledge, etc. Instruction is designed to strengthen these strands through sustained work with complex texts. That's a key pillar of high quality instruction at the secondary level, at the K-5 level as well, through discussion and writing as well. So Unlike our math curriculum, which we have one curriculum for middle school, another one for high school, in the English language arts, we have the same curriculum for middle school and high school. We use what's called HMH into literature as our core curriculum. The curriculum definitely provides a common foundation, comprehensive and flexible texts, and there's some flexibility for teachers to make some instructional decisions as well from some choice texts as well. More than 1,500 school districts throughout the country use HMH, and including 200 school districts that are as large or larger than PPS. A little bit beyond the curriculum, and just to talk a little bit about the pedagogy and philosophy behind what we think of as high quality instruction, we think of 3 core actions as instrumental in making sure that our teachers are teaching the way that our students need to be learning. 1, lessons need to be focused on high quality texts. 2, we want to make sure that teachers are engaging students through questions and standards aligned tasks. And then 3, and in my opinion most importantly, students need to do the work. The person doing the thinking is doing the learning, or the person doing the work is doing the learning. So our curriculum thankfully allows us to really operationalize all those shifts. We Into Literature directly supports these shifts through several key features. Units build around high interests, content-focused topics that span literature, science, the arts, and social studies. Texts are high quality and rigorous, and lessons are intentionally text-focused. One way to illustrate this is to just briefly show you that the HMH curriculum, all the units are organized around specific themes, and so all the texts included in those units help students build background knowledge related to those themes. Just an example from 8th grade, actually this quarter. So right now, our 8th graders are studying the works of Nikki Grimes and Sandra Cisneros. Students will also analyze texts from poets Audre Lorde and Pat Mora. This unit will culminate in 2 assessments, a comprehension reading exam, as well as a writing assessment, which also includes planning, drafting, and revising. Our 9th graders begin their high school experience by studying Langston Hughes, Samira Ahmed, Maya Angelou. In 10th grade, they're exposed to writing by Dr. King, Malcolm X, and Colson Whitehead. So again, a wide range of authors. And across grade levels, these intentional text selections allow students to deepen knowledge, expand vocabulary, and make connections over time. As far as instructional minutes, similar to math, at the 6-8 level, students have 45 minutes a day of ELA instruction, and at the high school level, it's 90 minutes every other day. One thing to mention about high schools in particular, oops, this slide was not, is there a way to just refresh? One thing to point out at the high school level is, in addition to the core, maybe it's not there, in addition to the core English language arts curriculum, starting in 10th grade or 11th grade, certainly, there are also opportunities for students to take advanced courses. So that includes AP Lit, AP Lang, it includes IB courses, and then a large portfolio of dual credit courses that include sports and culture, feminism and gender studies, fiction, myth and mystery, hip hop and literature, Latin American lit, lots of different Writing 115 and Writing 121 courses. These are courses that are aligned with PCC and allow students to earn college credit while still in high school.
We can do questions. Do you want to come up, Melissa?
And Anjane had a class to attend, so she was excused.
That's fair.
I know we're bumping up against time, so I will keep my questions short and sweet. I remember from our CTE presentation being really excited about, gosh, I'm going to forget exactly what we call it, but bringing some of the science of reading pieces into CTE.
Yes.
To help our older students. I'm curious about other ways we are helping our secondary students who didn't get that bottom strand of the reading rope when they were in elementary school, what we're doing to bring them along and catch them up.
Yeah, we'll have our colleague Elizabeth Martin answer some of the questions. I'll answer some parts as well. Just to say, I was at McDaniel High School just yesterday doing an observation where a CTE teacher was applying some of the literacy strategies that they were exposed to the day before in a cohort of CTE teachers who were learning about how to apply science of reading in CTE. And so that's one of the things that we're really excited about, to expand to other content areas and make it clear that when we talk about literacy, we're not just talking about English language arts. And that each discipline, whether it's science or social studies or CT or business or computer science or health occupations, each discipline has its own literacy demands and its own literacy kind of tools and protocols and approaches. And it's incumbent upon all of us as the instructors of those various disciplines to help students develop the skills they need to make meaning. And interestingly enough, some of those skills are very much transferable. So whether you're reading a computer code text or a novel or a poem or medical chart, some of the same principles of science of reading are very much relevant. The importance of background knowledge, the importance of vocabulary, the importance of understanding the structure of the language. And so we're actively engaging in conversations around how to bring science of reading across our content areas. And so this summer, for example, we will have 2 day-long institutes for our math, science, social studies, and language arts teachers to talk about the implications of science of reading on all of those content areas. But then to answer maybe questions about how we support our struggling students.
Yeah, I think maybe particularly middle school intervention and what that looks like.
Yeah, the last 2 years we've been prioritizing staffing at middle school specifically for reading and math intervention. I can speak to that as well. So they all talked about assessments that are curriculum embedded. Teachers look at that and they provide some reteaching through that curriculum. But when the student is really struggling and we have our MAP data, kids can take during an elective time an intervention course. One thing to note is the curricula that we use during that time is not the grade level curriculum. It's actually going back into those skills and strategies that kids didn't learn across K through 3, maybe 4 or 5. We use a program called Rewards in the reading intervention space, and we actually use iReady in the math intervention space. They all have embedded assessments. We do standards-based grading with that, so parents see how their student is doing in those courses in middle school. And then we check kind of fall to winter semester data in growth and consider, are we exiting a student or are we continuing to meet their needs? But it is a science of reading curriculum actually developed by our local famous SOR person, Anita Archer. And so it's a tried and true program. It goes into some of those K-3 skills, as I mentioned, but then it's really fastly moving to get them into text that looks like what they see every day in their regular classes, but it teaches them strategies on how to break down those word parts going back to the vocabulary you mentioned, the meaning, syllables, all the Greek and Latin roots, all of it is in there. Yeah.
Thank you. Director Split, Director Lafort, take it away.
I mostly just want to say, because I feel like, I mean, I know like not a million people watch this, but what I see both through my own kids who are in elementary school still and hearing what the high school students are doing is like a real commitment to making sure that our kids are learning about people from all over the world and people that look like them and people that don't. And I just think that's really great. And I know it's like Portland, so maybe we take it for granted, but I was driving around some rowdy fifth graders not too long ago, and somebody was, I love our senior citizens who do the signs on the side of the road stuff, people of all ages, but it does seem this was a particularly older group. And one of them had a no one's illegal on stolen land. And they all like talked about it and got it. And it was like amazing that like fifth graders understand what that means. And it's not because of exposure from their parents. It's because in fifth grade, they spend a bunch of time in Wit and Wisdom learning about indigenous cultures in the United States. And particularly, it seems like they, at least in our classroom, learned a lot about indigenous cultures here in Oregon. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that, because I think we take it for granted and it's not something that's true everywhere, and it's not something that was true decades ago. The question that I have, so oddly enough, Rochelle literally asked 2 questions I had, but I kind of want to go back to the one about teachers and add in students, and also just to ask, I guess, the third question, but I know we're at time, so I'll try to keep it short. Do we do anything intentionally to get teacher feedback other than just being in the tea of being with teachers, which is what I heard earlier? Do we do anything more intentional than that to see how they're doing with curriculum? And then I just made up my own metaphor. Hopefully that made sense. And then, so it's going to be a 3-parter. So there's that. Do we do anything with students to see how they're feeling about how they're learning? And that would be really hard, so probably maybe not, but I'm just curious. And then especially older kids could, though, be more engaged. And then the final question is, we're getting to the point with some of this curriculum where it's time to revisit, which like kind of devastates me, because it seems like just yesterday I watched the teachers at my kids' school really struggle with implementing. So I'm just curious when that is coming for, I think I heard iReady's 5 years, and I think my little one was in first grade. My older one was in first grade, so we're at 4 years for the big grouping in elementary school at least. Yeah. So try to do those as quick as you can. Yeah. 1 sentence each.
Melissa, do you want to take the teacher feedback question? Then I can take the adoption cycle questions.
Sure. So I think I would say every day I get feedback from teachers. We're out in the schools. They're emailing me. We have a really fluid conversation with teachers all the time. We've been doing the science reading cohorts, and so we get in-depth feedback from those 20 schools. And so this year it's with a certain 20 schools that we're getting that feedback. But we do take that seriously, and we have tried to adjust and make resources, and are always trying to listen to what they have given us and try to make adjustments, work with Great Minds, work with Wilson to get products or make things for them to adjust the curriculum to support them.
Mm-hmm. And then on the adoption cycles, the general rule of thumb is there's a 7-year review process that the state requires. It's a review process. You don't have to do a new adoption. You have to go through a review of the current standards, the current materials, the data, what else is out there, and then make the determination about what's best. We have in the K-5 space, like iReady just revised everything. Patrice spoke about that, and we did kind of a mid-cycle update and revision with them. So we'll see when we get to that point. We'll go through the same process we always go through, which is part of our adoption process, where we get together a teacher team, we study everything, we consider all the possibilities, but we may decide if there's traction to stay with some of our current resources if they're working, because we know that the learning curve isn't always worth it. if we still have really quality materials in front of our kids. So does that help? Yeah, so we'll see.
I think so. I have like a weird bias toward keeping it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I just have one comment. We've talked before in this venue about assessment, and as we're moving toward more of the curriculum embedded assessment becoming online so that the district can use it, I hope we'll consider doing away with non-standards based like maps. Well, maybe it's standards based, but not like tied to the curriculum nor tied to the OSAS. I'm having like a moment where I want to talk about the Oregon Climate Action Commission. That's work. OSAS, yeah? Okay, I've got an OCAC at my work.
Yeah.
So I just, as a comment wise, I would just love it if we would, as we're moving toward that model, not be using more computer-based assessments than we need to be using to like get the data that we need about how our kids are doing. And I will just leave it at that. Thank you.
I will say just a note on that. I think Dr. Adams has shared, and you'll be hearing more, as part of the state's new accountability framework, we will be required as a district to choose an interim assessment that we do administer K-8 3 times a year. We largely already have those muscles in place in our system, but we will need to continue that practice in addition to our curriculum embedded assessments.
Yes, maybe find that balance as that comes online. So we're not like adding more testing on computers to kids that, don't love it.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be more because we already have the practice, but we will need to continue that practice.
One of my questions was basically what you asked, like, do we need to update, which you answered. My question is actually at the high school level. On the last slide, the ELA curriculum that we offer to our high schoolers, there was a time when, in the not too recent past, where AP Lit and AP Lang were not offered necessarily across all of our high schools. Some had them, some didn't. Has that changed? Does every high school have AP Lang and AP Lit now?
Every high school except Cleveland and Lincoln, which have their IB.
Okay.
But all of our schools, Jefferson is developing that program and will have. One exciting thing that we've been doing at the high school level is thinking about how can advanced coursework be integrated as part of our core curriculum so that it's not kind of elective only for some students if they choose to, and it's doubling up on credit, but how can we make it an integral part of their experience? So at McDaniel High School, for example, they offer pre-AP 9th grade English, and then all of their 10th graders take AP Seminar as their 10th grade English class. In 11th grade, students can choose between AP Lang and some dual credit courses. So just a small example, but at all of our high schools, there are advanced coursework options that are either AP, IB, and or dual credit.
But for AP Lit and AP Lang, like it was a big issue at one of our high schools because we didn't have one of them. I think it was AP Lit. And that's in place now. There was a lot of parent pushback.
Let me triple check.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, if that's okay with you. But as far as advanced coursework options, all of them offer it. I'll triple check if all non-AB high schools offer both AP Lit and AP Lang. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
We're good.
Look at us. We are only 7 minutes over. That's pretty good for this committee. Thank you all so much. This was really informative. Oh my gosh, I don't have my glasses on.
I'm off to my niece's OBOB battle, speaking of literacy. So
Yay, go niece.
Thank you for the opportunity to make it
Thank
in
you
time.
so much.
Thanks,
This was
everybody.
a great presentation. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out how to get down from your screen.
Our next meeting of the Teaching, Learning, and Enrollment Committee is scheduled for March 12th. At that meeting, we will receive we'll talk about continuity of instruction and extended field trip follow-up and enrollment. And we will have our 2 new student reps joining us, which will be really exciting. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Get well soon, Director.